Hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for today's class. Today we are going to look into best practices in preparing, populating documents, and submitting compliant electronic common technical documents. And of course, we are going to look into the content of ICH M4, M4E for efficacy, M4S for safety, and M4Q for quality. So we're going to look into the structure of the common technical document that we use in order to register pharmaceutical products, and the ICH M4 or M4E, etc. As you know very well, these are all available and posted on the ich.org website. What we see in those ICH documents are the standards for creating a submission package, but that package is called CTD or Common Technical Document, and it has its own structure, which is composed of 5 modules, Module 1 through Module 5. Then in each module we have submodules, and in each submodule we have placeholders, or those submodules that are being used as placeholders in order to add specific documents now related to efficacy, safety, quality, and obviously the module 1 is for the administrative purposes, where the content and the structure of the module 1 of the CTD is depending on each country. So you will see the different, I would say, structure for the eCTD or CTD module 1 for Canada, which is different from the US or from Europe or from other countries. What we are going to see today, we are going to look into compliance within the context of the eCTD. And we are going to explain what is compliance. Then we are going to talk about the quality control, which is not related to the drugs. Here it's related to controlling the quality of the regulatory documents that we are preparing and we add into the CTD backbone. Backbone means the set of the structures with modules 1 through 5, where these are in folders that we call modules. And then we are going to also look into eCTD compliance compliant data sets. That's because the way that we prepare and we submit our data sets is already having a standard. And we also have that standard that we are going to cover as well. We will then talk about the roles and responsibilities of different people in a company. Of course, we may also outsource some works. We may also hire consultants. And we are going to, of course, need several subject matter experts that will allow us and help us to create those regulatory documents that we add into our submissions. Then we are going to look into the process flow. So talking about how we are going to do the finalization of the regulatory documents and when we are going to add them into their specific placeholders in different submodules. We will then talk about the eCTD submission tools. So we look into the best practices in assembling briefing documents, and we will also go over the submission of the briefing documents. Another important topic is about the eCTD software. That's because when we are creating the CTD or Common Technical Documents, obviously we are going to use 5 different modules. And those modules are, in fact, folders, but we call them modules. And in each folder, we create subfolders that we call submodules. And the structure of the CTD, as per ICH M4, is in a way that we are going to have a main folder called with several zeros for the first submission or first version. And then we are going to have module 1 through module 5. In module 1, if we are preparing different submissions for different countries, obviously we are going to have module 1, then, for example, a folder or a submodule called CA for Canada, US for USA, JP for Japan, EU for Europe, etc. And then we are going to have, obviously, again, module 2 through module 5 as well. So now, when we are looking into the CTD, this is just a package composed of several regulatory documents that we added into different subfolders and folders that we call modules. Now, if you would like to submit that package to electronic, for example, submission gateway for FDA, in this case, we will need to have it reviewed, have it, again, processed by softwares. What are those softwares? Those softwares, they all do the same thing. We call them eCTD builders. It can be eCTD, something else. It can be building, again, an eCTDs. But those softwares, some of them, they allow us just to open an existing eCTD. Some, they will allow us to convert the CTD into an eCTD or electronic common technical document, where the eCTD has several files in addition to the CTD. If you look into the CTD folder structure, you will have only 5 modules, 1 through 5. When you look into the eCTD, you are going to have 6 modules. So it's module 1 through module 5, and a module that we call DTD, which is a folder as well. And in addition to this, we also have a file which is called index, and then the extension is XML, standing for Extended Marked Up Language. That file that we call index.xml is containing the list of all of the folders, subfolders, and all of the names of the documents that exist in each subfolder or submodules. So this is an index. That's why we call that index, and it is written not in, of course, in text format, but this is not a text. You can open that with a text editor, but this is written in XML format or Extended Marked Up Language. And this is the first file that is being read by any submission gateway where we are submitting our eCTD. So when the eCTD package is submitted online through a website, the first file is going to be read is the index.xml, and then the remaining are going to be read as well. So for the eCTD software, of course, we're going to look into the lifecycle management for the documentation. We're also going to look into different types and vendors, as I already mentioned. For the eCTD software, some of them, they just allow us to open an existing eCTD. Some, they allow us to create or convert a CTD to eCTD as well. And we're also going to talk about their typical uses. Now, in this slide, we are just reviewing what is in the eCTD triangle. As I already mentioned, and you can see here, you have the top of this pyramid, which is the non-part of the CTD. This is where, in module 1, we are going to look into different regulatory authorities, where the structure of the module 1, the modules and submodules, as well as the required documentations, are also added. So we're going to look into module 1 if you would like to prepare, again, a submission to Health Canada, for example. So here for module 1, we will need to go to Health Canada website. If we are looking into a clinical trial application or CTA, we need to prepare our module 1 with the structure of the folders or modules based on Health Canada requirements, and to add documents related to each and every of those submodules. Now, if you would like to do prepare a new drug submission for Health Canada, obviously, again, the structure of the module 1 is different. Now, if you look into other places like USA, or like Europe or Japan, in this case, they are asking for a different structure for module 1. This is why we don't call that eCTD. This is not part of the CTD or eCTD. However, module 2 through module 5 are exactly the same in all of the countries where they are following the ICH guidelines. So now, here we talk about CTD, which is universal, and this is related to module 2, 3, 4, and 5. So in this pyramid, what we can see is on the top, module 1, which is called, again, which is known as non-part of the CTD. And then we have module 2, where we add summary reports. These are summaries of the documents that we provide in our submission, and we add into quality module, which is module number 3, to the non-clinical study reports in module 4 and to the clinical study reports in module 5. So in module 2, we are going to have several placeholders, or again submodules, where we have to add the QoS, or quality overall summary. That quality overall summary is related to module 3, which is related to the quality of our product. Now in module 2, we also have a non-clinical overview and a non-clinical summary placeholders. And they are related to module 4, related to non-clinical study reports. Now we also have in module 2 other submodules or placeholders for clinical overview and clinical summary. So that information is the summary that is coming from clinical study reports in module 5. So now you understand very well how the structure of the eCTD is built. Now we also talk about the regulation that we're going to look again as well in the next slides. But now you understand why we have to be in compliance with the regulations, meaning that we need to use the same standard in order to produce or to make our submissions. Now it can be a clinical trial application, or it can be a new drug submission for Canada. It may be a marketing authorization application for Europe, or it can be a new drug application, for example, or IND application in the USA. Now let's go over the primary guidance documents. Obviously, we have ICH M4, which is the organization of the common technical document for the registration of pharmaceuticals for human use. We also have M4E for the CTD, which is standing for M4 efficacy. Then we have M4S for safety. We have M4Q for quality. You can access all of these standards or guidance documents on ich.org website. You look into the top right side of the web page, and you're going to search for the section M standing for multidisciplinary. So when you click on M, the section will open, and then you will be able to see and to access all of these ICH guidelines. Now, obviously, for the USA, you also have, documents that will help you in order to prepare your submissions. Here at the bottom, I did add a few of those. But again, this is if you would like to submit your drugs to the USA. If this is for Canada, you have to go to Health Canada website. If it's for Japan, you have to go to the Japanese regulatory affairs authorities. And same thing applies to Europe or any other part of the world. What is compliance in eCTD? Now, this is compliance with all technical aspects of the eCTD format, and it's a broad scope. Now, for example, we talk about PDF files, okay? We have Word document templates for written sections that must be converted into compliant PDFs. So it means that if you're working on summaries in Module 2, all of the reports, the processes, the specifications, same thing for Module 3, and all, of course, the non-clinical data or clinical data, they must all be in PDF. Now, we also have data sets. When we are, of course, talking about different publications, or we have data sets related to the studies that we did in animals or in humans, so clinical trials. So here, and for the next slides, I'm going to talk about SDTM. So SDTM is standing for Study Data Tabulation Model. Now, SDTM has several requirements so that we are going to prepare our data set and then to submit our data set based on the Study Data Tabulation Model standard or requirement. We also have what we call Analysis Data Model, or ADAM. Same thing here. If you would like to know more about the structure, you can always refer to the structures in different regulatory authorities all over the world. And because they're all, again, the same standards that we are using ICH guidelines. So you can, and I invite you, of course, to look into, again, the structures in detail. But the structure is making sure that we are providing the minimum number amount, or the way that we are giving a pattern to our data. So the way that we are going to create data, make the data, and of course present and submit the data through our submissions. We also talk about hierarchy or granularity. So it's a need to properly structure the submissions and file documents appropriately and in accordance with the comprehensive table of contents, headings, and hierarchy. Now, it's important because we need to have a proper setup of our modules and submodules. That's why when we have module 1, we are going to have, obviously, again, modules for different countries. If we click on a module 1, submodule Canada, and then to go to different submodules, in this case, we will need, of course, to make sure that we are creating exactly the same structure with exactly the same naming conventions, those submodules. We need also to prepare different documents, regulatory documents, but they all must be named exactly the same way. And how and from where you are going to find out how each and every module or submodule is named, how again each and every of regulatory documents are named, you have to refer to ICH M4, M4Q, S, and E. So in those ICH guidelines, it's clearly written how or what are the modules and submodules, how we are going to name them, how we are going to name different files that will have to be added into those submodules as well. So this is a standard, and this is why we talk about compliance in eCTD. Now, one of the important, again, aspects of eCTD is that we are going to add PDF documents. So all of the Word documents must be converted to PDF for inclusion in the eCTDs. So here, what you need to know is that when you're converting your documents from Microsoft Word document or from any other format that you may use, when you convert them into PDF format, you may lose some special characters, and this is not because there's an issue with the PDF or builder, but it's because of the fact that sometimes some fonts are not well installed. Sometimes, again, the configuration of your PDF writer is not optimal, and it doesn't recognize all of the characters that are used in your original file, such as Microsoft Word, but any other file as well. In this case, we risk to lose special characters. This is why we have to make sure that when we are creating a Word document or any document and we convert that into PDF format, that we will review that. This is also what we call quality control of the documents. Of course, it's one of the points when we talk about quality control. Now, why we do this practice? That's because we cannot just send any type of file made by any type of software to FDA or to Health Canada or to MA or to other regulatory authorities, and that's because they don't have all of those softwares. So we use, as a convention, obviously as a standard, PDF formats. That's why we need to learn how to create those PDF files, and then how to do the quality control of our newly created PDF files. Now, one of the examples for making PDF files is Adobe Portable, document format. Obviously, PDF is standing for Portable Document Format. Now, the first time it was, put on the market by Adobe. Nowadays, we are having several softwares that can create PDF or portable document format documents. You can also, from Microsoft Word, or if you are, for example, in Notes in Apple computers or any other system, you can easily convert your text or your document directly into portable document format. Now, PDF is accepted as a standard for documents defined in the, again, ICH specifications. Now, we also have regional recommendations for the creation of PDF files for the appropriate agencies' review effectively. This is exactly what I mentioned. Now, you also need that your PDF files are accessed efficiently, and you need to optimize them as well. It means that when you are going to add your PDF files in your submissions, they should not be password protected. We cannot neither have PDF files on a server and then just to put a link into our submissions in eCTD. So they need to be electronically present, and they must be saved. They must be in PDF file, quality controlled, not non-password protected, and then to be added into different submodules in the again in the submission. So here we have a document. This is of course for FDA related to the portable document format or PDF specifications. Obviously, I already went over several points, but there we have more, of course, points about that. One of the examples of additional points to consider is that when you are preparing your PDF, you may have, again, pictures of documents that you add, that you have in your, I would say, in your text file or your Microsoft Word, for example, document. In this case, when you are saving your PDF, it's going to have a much larger volume because the PDF is taking the picture as is, and it's going to be a large file. However, you can always look into, again, your software PDF writer to read and to scan and to do the OCR or optimal character recognition in order to review and to extract the text from the picture. In this case, you will only have a PDF, we call that a searchable PDF, that you can then save with much lower volume, and then to add that into the corresponding submodule in your eCTD submission. Now, you also need to learn about adding bookmarks. You can also need to learn how to add several documents or combining documents into one PDF. So these are all written in this document, and again I'm inviting you to open this document and to look closer into all of the requirements. Now let's talk about the fonts and pages. This is already again mentioned as well. So the question is always, should we use Times New Roman, Arial, or Courier? I tell you right now that all of those formats are accepted. Obviously, many companies, they use Times New Roman. However, don't forget that Times New Roman may not be always easy to be read. And personally, I use Arial, because this is a fine cut for each character, and it's much easier to read. But again, I leave it to you. You can use any of those fonts, Times New Roman, Arial, or Courier as well. Now, don't forget that it also, again, has some limitations. And this limitation that we have is that you will have to limit the number of fonts that you use in each document. Now, you also need to avoid customized fonts, because maybe the Adobe Reader of FDA, for example, maybe they don't have that extension or that update or that modified font. So when they open your PDF, they will not be able to open it or read that. That's why. Then pages must be properly oriented, so that all parties pages are presented in portrait, and all landscape pages are presented in landscape. Here I'm inviting you to learn about, again, how to format I would say a page in Microsoft Word, for example, or in Notes in Apple computers, because it's important. If we don't do that, then we are going to have long documents, not easy to read. We will have to bend our head, which is not easy neither. It will also ask reviewers to maybe review, or I would say to change the direction of a document, but all of these, they are going to cause frustration, and we don't want this to happen. This is why this is again a convention, okay, among companies to follow, obviously, this type of I would say requirements, and to meet these requirements. Okay, so it's important that I would say portraits are in portrait modes, and all landscape pages are presented in landscape. Now I invite you to learn more about how to change again the display of a page from landscape to portrait and vice versa in your I would say if you have Microsoft Word, or if you have Notes as well, or if you are in Adobe, for example, programs or softwares. Now here we are just talking about the fonts. As you see, and as we already talked about this guidance document, we accept several fonts, but they must be original fonts, not customized fonts. Now you can use serif, sans serif, non-proportional, or other, of course, but usually we use a font ranging for a font size ranging from 9 to 12 points, and usually it's Times New Roman or Arial. Now let's talk about the margins and file size and the quality. For the margins, we cannot remove the margins. Okay, it makes pages very difficult to read if we don't have large margins. So here we talk about the print area for pages that should fit on a sheet of A4 paper and letters, so 8511 paper. So margins must be at least 2.5 centimeters on the left side of each page, and should be provided, of course, in a way that they are all going to be consistent. For pages in landscape orientation, smaller margins, at least 2 centimeters at the top and 0.8 centimeters left and right. Now you see that even here we have to be in compliance with regulations. These are the regulations that we are looking at. Now, if you have any PDF produced by scanned documents, make sure that all of the scanning did take place with, again, the resolution which is minimum 300 dots per inch, or DPI. If it's less than 300, we will not be able to read that. And then what happens is that the regulatory authority is going to send you those documents that they cannot open. It's going to cause delays, and again, this is not what we want, because we don't want delays when we are applying to register a product. Now here again we talk about the dot per inch, or DPI. So we look into the scanning resolution, and we are talking about the fact that we need to have minimum 300 DPI for the resolution of images that you use in your regulatory documents. Now let's talk about other specifications. Now the file size should be limited to conserve space as much as possible. It's not very easy to predict, of course, in advance, what will be the file size. But we know that if we are, for example, having some pictures, and those pictures, they are just containing text, in this case, it's much more logical to convert those text on the picture and then to create a document with only text. If not, we are going to end up having a PDF file with 6-7 megabytes instead of maybe 10 or 20 kilobytes. And of course, we need to optimize those for fast web view as well. That's because those documents are being seen on a monitor. So they must be optimized so that we will be able to see them on a monitor. Now here, coming back again with the optimization, I'm not going to go into detail of how you're going to do the configuration for the optimization, but this slide, of course, you can always look into the details of the slide, is just telling you how you're going to be able to optimize your PDF for fast web view. If not, I'm inviting you to look into different search engines on internet, and the question would be how to optimize the PDF for fast web view. Okay, now let's go over the page numbering now. And now you need to use insert page number to add consecutive page numbers to each document, including appendices. Now you can use Roman numerals. Now for a change memo or summary of changes, and Arabic numerals for the document's main content. So I'm also inviting you to get used, if not already done, to get used to page numbering as well in any I would say software that you're using. Now here we are talking about PDF compliance. As you can see, on the right side we are having a table of contents, and on the left side we are looking into the structure of a document and each and every titles used in the text. Here we are looking into bookmarks. You will need to learn how to create bookmarks, and once you, for example, I will tell you right now, it's very easy. You just select or highlight a text on the right side, and then you're going to go to the left side and you're going to click on the plus sign, where it will allow you to create a bookmark using that name, and it's going to be added now on the left side of a document, as you can see. So when you are looking into the left side document, you're having several bookmarks. Each of the bookmarks, when we click on them, it will bring us directly, and as soon as possible, it will bring us to that specific section for which we did make a bookmark. So it's going to make the review of these documents extremely fast and easy. So learn how to create bookmarks in your PDF documents. Now here we can talk about, again, different ways that we are going to create bookmarks as well, or interlinks. In a PDF document, you can also create links within the document. So here, if we see in table 11.1, you click on table 11.1, and then it will bring the page where we have table 11.1. You can also add a link, another link, underneath that table, for example, where you can click, it will go back. So you can go back to this section as well. So you can always add this type of directing and redirecting commands in your documents as well. So again, please learn how to create these type of links within PDFs as well. Same thing applies here. This is just for, again, links to different references. Same thing here. You can go to reference. You can again come back to this place. Again, you have to learn how to add those links within the documents. Now here, again, I will not go into detail. This is related to Word document techniques. So how you are going to, for example, have heading styles, how you're going to add headings. Again, I'm inviting you to learn how to add headings and footers as well. You just need to double click on the top of the page or at the bottom of the page, and then you will be able to add headings and footers. You can also change the footers and headers in the middle of a document, because you may, for example, want to have different headers or footers within the same document, if applicable. Now, same thing here, you need to learn how to add hyperlinks. Now, those hyperlinks are links where when you click on a text that is highlighted and it has a hyperlink, it will, your page will change, and you will be able to see a page where the link was headed or it was linked to. And again, don't forget that you also always need to have a button or a link to go back from where you are coming from in the same document as well. Now, let's talk about the eCTD compliant data sets. Okay, so for the critical part, a specific folder is dedicated. This is in Module 5 folder. So what we see in Figure 2 is the eCTD Module 5 folder structures. So it shows how the data submission is structured with one folder per study, plus 2 additional folders containing, again, ISS and ISB specific files. Within each of these folders, the same structure is repeated as shown in the figure below. So what you can see on the left side of the figure is, on the top, is Module 5. It's not very easy to read, but you can still perceive that this is Module 5. Then after the Module 5, if you go down, you will be able to see a folder called Datasets. It's just a folder right below Module 5. And in that folder, you are going to see several subfolders or submodules, 001, 002, 3, 4, 5. And when we open, for example, 006, you will see that we have a folder for analysis, and then we have ADEM. This is the structure of the data. Then you have another folder called data sets, and then you have a split. But this is where, again, you see that we are adding in Module 5, in the data sets, we are going to add several types of data sets, and depending on their, I would say the data set itself or their type, we are going to use different I would say formats. So those formats of data sets, we can talk about ADAM. So it's analysis data sets and programs. We can have non-ADAM. We can have other data sets. We can have SDTM, for example, or we can have, of course, ISS/ISE pooling folders. In order to learn more about, again, these abbreviations, and mainly not only the abbreviations, but the structure of these different types of data sets, I'm inviting you to look into FDA submission experience using the CDISC standards document. So you can always go on Google or on any search engine, you can search for the FDA submission experience using the CDISC standards. And this is where, depending on the type of data set that you have and you would like to format and then to add into your submission, you will be able to learn more about different requirements. Now here, we talked already about the CDISC in the previous slide. This is Clinical Data Interchange Standards Consortium Standard. That's a standard. And within the standard, we are asking, again, all of the companies to add a minimum number of variables. And the way that the variables are, again, exposed or added is also in the standard. And the way that we can use optimally those data sets in order to review your drug and all of your trials, again, is a standard. So we need always to look into the CSDISC in order to make sure that the data set and the format that we are using and for creating regulatory documents and add them into our eCTD are in full compliance with the requirements. Now here, for example, you have the, STDM or Study Data Tabulation Model, which is a framework for organizing clinical trial data. And you see that CDISC or Clinical Data Interchange Standard Consortium is the organization that created that. So when we talk about SDTM, this is the model. And when we look into the standards, of course, if you go to CDISC, you will be able to look into the definitions or guidance documents related to different models. One of them is a study data tabulation model. You can then click on that and then open the document and to look into the standards that you're going to use for creating your data sets that you will add into your eCTD. Now here, for example, you can see in the CDISC website that it stated that SDTM provides a standard for organizing and formatting data to streamline processes in collection, management, analysis, and reporting of the data. Now, implementing SDTM supports data aggregation and warehousing, fosters mining and reuse, facilitates sharing, helps perform due diligence and other important data review activities. At the end of the day, what you need to understand is that we are going to need to follow the same standard on how we are going to create our tables. And for example, CDM is also used in Japan, okay, by PMDA. It's also used by the USA. It's also used by Health Canada. So in addition to CDISC, FDA also added very similar document, same requirements, because it's the same standard, related to, again, data standards. So you can call and can find that FDA's data standards catalog. But again, it's very similar to the CDISC and to the SDTM standards. Now here, if you would like to see, okay, how this is done, how it's made, okay, the structure, you can see the general understanding on the domains, okay. So the CDISC SDTM has 30 domains and new domains are being developed. So the SDTM domains are delivered into 6 classes. Now what you see underneath or on this, again, slide, these are all different, we can call them spreadsheets. We can call them models. We can call them modules as well. When you are, for example, creating a data set, you need to have, for example, a data set just for interventions. So you need to have concomitant medications or conmeds. So this is one domain. You need to have a domain related to the exposure to the drug. You need to have another domain which is related to substance use. That's how we prepare. So we don't put everything in one spreadsheet, okay, from A to Z, and then putting 600,000 data where it's not easy to understand or see exactly how it works. It needs, again, months in order to understand the data. Here we are asking you, which is a standard in the SDTM, to have different modules and to add specific information into these different modules. So for example, and I repeat again, for example, when we are submitting or adding our data into our eCTD in module 5, for example, as I showed you in the previous slide, we are going to have one set of data for concomitant medications, medications that are being used at the same time as the experimental drug during the clinical trials by human subjects. We will need to have another, again, module where we talk about exposure only of patients or of the drug to patients. And another module related to substance use of the experimental drug. So this category is called interventions. So we understand that just for the interventions, we need to create a module or a data set and then to add it into our eCTD module 5. Now another domain is about events. And when we look into events, we see that we need to prepare a data set only for adverse events. Any untoward medical occurrence experienced by our patients using our experimental drug, related or not to the use of the experimental drug. This is what we call an adverse event. So you need to have a data set only for adverse events. You need to have a data set only for disposition. Another data set only for medical history. Another data set for the deviations, so if the protocol has been deviated. We have not been following the protocol when doing the study. Another one, clinical events. So now we also have other modules like findings for ECG labs, physical exams, microbiology, or pharmacokinetics, etc. So now you understand that we are asking, I would say, this is a standard, so that when we create our data sets, we're going to create those data sets in a way that reviewers, scientific reviewers for Module 4 animal studies or Module 5 clinical studies, they will be able to look into a data. We don't give them just, just a spreadsheet with 10 million data, and then we tell them good luck, try to find it yourself. No, we have standards, we follow them. So the pharmaceutical company is doing this job, and the companies, they have to be in compliance with the SDTM. What are the roles and responsibilities when we are talking about the preparation of an eCTD and compliance with the regulations? Now, it's somewhat dependent on the size of the organization. So smaller companies, they hire consultants, and they may fill many of the roles. Now, new drug applications for the US, new drug submission for Canada, marketing application authorization or MAA for Europe, for example, they will be much larger than IND or investigational new drug or CTA, clinical trial application groups. That's because the amount or the type of information that we are asking in Module 1 is much larger, is much more complex for a new drug application or new drug submission compared with IND or CTA applications. Now, who are the key players here? We have obviously people in regulatory affairs, but we have to work with clinical development or clinical research department. We also need people who write, so these are medical writers. We also need to have people working on chemistry, manufacturing and control or CMC documents. We need to have people in non-clinical development. We need biostatisticians. We need people who manage data. We need people who do the quality assurance, making sure that we are in full compliance with the regulations and with standards. And we also have reviewers. We will have people who are doing the documentations, those who are looking into finding articles, preparing articles, because we also need references. We refer when we are writing again, very complex scientific documents. So we need, obviously, to use references. So all of these different tasks, in addition to other tasks, of course, are being done by other people that I am not citing in this slide. Now, let's go over the regulatory affairs, their job. Their job is they are the hub or they are the face of the submission. So overall managers of the submission may work closely with program management to do the, I would say, the job related to the preparation of eCTD. Now what they do, this is they drive internal and external meetings to discuss authoring progress. They drive selection of eCTD templates and the software providers in cases where these tools are not already available. They also maintain master tracker of all eCTD submission sections and keep track of finalizing progress. They also manage timelines and execution for submission-related discussions. And here we talk about pre-IND or pre-NDA meeting. If we are in Canada, these are going to be pre-CTA and pre-NDS meetings. It may be pre-MAA meeting or pre-CTA meeting in European Union. Now let's go over the jobs or the responsibilities of the clinical development or clinical operations team. Now, clinical is often a mix of medical doctors, philosophia doctors, and operational level people. all with varying levels of involvement and expertise within the clinical development sphere. Now, we may have a chief medical officer who is usually the primary responsible person. We may have clinical development head, can be the VP, vice president, or the director. We will have clinical project managers. So these are intimately involved with the clinical trials. And of course, we may now have large groups depending on the size of the clinical program, because we have clinical trials where you just have one or two sites. You may have 200 sites when in different again sites we are testing an experimental drug for its efficacy and safety testing. Now, of course, what they do is that they will need to work on Module 5 and on Module 2 related to clinical summary reports. And they can also they are responsible for quality control of any section of the submission. Now, what's the role of medical writers? So medical writers are heavily involved in IND, NDA, CTA, NDS, or CTA, MAA submissions, and they may report to clinical development or regulatory affairs departments. They also work with the quality control team and other consultants, and they may report, of course, into medical writing or regulatory people. Now, in small companies, different functions areas may also serve to do the quality control of the work. For example, clinical operations professionals may perform the quality control of non-clinical study reports and vice versa. Now let's talk about what is the responsibility of the team for the chemistry, manufacturing, and control. Now this team is critical to the success of any IND/NDA, against CTA, NDS, MAA submissions. They work on Module 2, which is Quality Overall Summary or QOS. They also work on the content of Module 3, where we deal with the chemistry, manufacturing, and control. Now, typically, CMC should have their own CMC-specific regulatory affairs professionals, but not all CMC groups do. Now, from IND or CTA through NDA or NDS, CMC group should work closely with regulatory affairs to update documentations as the chemistry and manufacturing and control processes are fleshed out or they are developed. Now, what the non-clinical trial team they do? So non-clinical is comprised of any team member involved in the in silico, ex vivo, or in animal or in vivo, of course, development of a drug. Now, non-clinical terms typically include scientists of varying disciplines. So we talk about non-clinical pharmacologists, non-clinical toxicologists, miscellaneous non-clinical researchers. And we can also include medical doctors, philosophia doctors, masters and bachelor level scientists. And of course, what they do is that they are working on the content of Module 2 related to non-clinical studies, in addition to Module 4, which is for non-clinical studies. Like CMC, now from application for testing a drug clinically, up to, registration of a drug for going to the market. So INDs through NDA or CTA through NDS. Non-clinical group should work closely with regulatory to update documents as CMC processes are fleshed out now or developed. Now, relative importance of non-clinical data is highest at time of IND. So when we are applying to test our product in humans in clinical trials, and yields its importance to clinical data as you make your way through drug development process. Now, what is the work or the job or the responsibilities of biostatisticians? So they are responsible for delivery of the clinical data analysis. They are primarily responsible for the statistical analysis plan, we call that SAP, submitted as appendices to clinical study reports, we call them CSRs within the eCTD. Now they are also responsible for tables, listings, and figures. We call that TLFs within the clinical study report appendices and tabular summaries of data within the CSR body. CSR standing for Clinical Summary Report. They are also responsible for ISS and ISE SAP and TLF delivery. So here we talk about the delivery of the data based on the format for ISS, for ISC, etc. Now they must also be heavily involved, they are heavily involved in clinical data interpretation and write-up, especially for new drug applications, marketing authorization applications, new drug submissions, etc. Now, biostatisticians, they also work closely with regulatory and data management to ensure clinical data set and programming are properly formatted. Now, what are the roles and responsibilities of data management department? Data management will work closely with biostatistics to deliver CDISC STDM compliant databases or datasets as part of the investigational new drug or new drug application or other types of applications in other countries. Now, data management and regulatory need to ensure the study data and standardization plan or SDSP is developed with input and agreement from FDA. Of course, if you are now dealing with studies in the USA, if you are in other jurisdiction, other countries have their own jurisdictions and they have their own regulatory authorities, and we have to be in full compliance with the other countries' laws and regulations as well, if we would like to put our product in their markets. Now, data management, biostatisticians, of course, clinical people, and medical writers will all work closely together to ensure the in-text and tabular and visual representation of clinical data in eCTD submission is accurate and compliant. Now, regulatory also, work closely with these teams to ensure they are appropriately incorporating information. And don't forget that all of the information that we're getting from all of these groups, they will end up in the hands of regulatory, employees or people, staff. And the regulatory team is going to use those documents in order to add them into their specific spaceholders that we already mentioned, which are the sub-modules in this eCTD backbone. Now, what are the roles and responsibilities of quality assurance department? Now, they should provide, or they do provide, support in development of internal team, ECT submission training, and SOP, or standard operating procedure developments. They also work to help develop proper electronic document management system. In some places, we call them EDMS. QA also conduct audits on a percentage or all of the quality control documents that are earmarked for an eCTD submission to ensure they are accurate. Accurate not just for the content, but accurate because of their format. They must be in PDF, as we already mentioned. They must have margins, as we already mentioned. They need to have bookmarks, as we already mentioned. So they are all different requirements, and they are all, again, based on the, standards that we can find. What is the eCTD overall process flow? Now, in this slide, we can see the process flow for the overall eCTD preparation. Now, this is coming from, of course, document development to publishing, of course. So on the top, you will see the document authorship. Then we see through the arrows going downward the quality control, and then document finalizing and publishing. So what happens during the document authorship? Here we are going to have subject matter experts, as you can see on the left side of the top rectangle in green, or in both two shades of green, where we are using templates coming from regulatory authority websites or from the templates that are built or made within the company based on the regulations and laws. And we use those templates, use also subject matter experts in order to work on those templates, prepare the documents, and then we are going to look into, writing the study reports. And now when you see on the right side of this slide stars with QA, this means quality assurance. So what we do is that through the regulations or procedures that quality assurance did write, or even their activities or audits that they do, we are going to undergo, or the study reports are going to undergo an audit. So we are going to process the document, we check those documents, and then once those documents are complete and they pass, we will then go through the quality control of each document. So here what we do is that we are going to review all documents against the source. Now it can be source, that's it, as a database. This may be sources like in an article that we write and we use references. So we always look into the references, we open our references, and then we are going to make sure that whatever we are writing in our article or in our report, for example, they are related to what is in a reference, because a reference is used to support that data. So it's extremely important to have references that are working, that are relevant, and they are used in order to write the content in our article and here in our reports or different regulatory documents. So once we have all of those different documents done, we may also have different hyperlinks. We have to check each and every hyperlink, not just only to different, publications that are online. They may be hyperlinks to another section in the same document. It may be, we may have bookmarks, for example. We need to check each and every bookmark, going back, forth, going back, going forth. And then after the QA, we're now going to do the check all in text and tabular figure data for accuracy of the content and for the format. Once this is done, we are now going to the third step, which is document finalization and publishing. So here we are going to look into the files that we are going to add into our electronic document management system. These are again where we put all of the final versions of each document. And we will also be able to use eCTD viewers, where it will allow us to open an eCTD, the structure with different modules, and then to show us in which folder or subfolder, or here submodules, which document exists. And some of those eCTD viewers allow us to check that we have the right document within the right submodule by showing us the list of submodules and allowing us to click once on each document to make sure that the document and the content is related to the submodule in which that document should be as per ICH M4 requirements. And again here we undergo the QA or quality assurance. We are going to ensure that documents are filed in appropriate locations, and obviously we are now going to have the final completed eCTD structure that we are now going to be able to use it for an application, an IND, for example, application in eCTD format, a new drug application, I would say in eCTD format, a new drug submission in eCTD format, a drug master file submission in eCTD format, etc. Now, what is quality assurance? This is the maintenance of a desired level of quality in a service or product, especially by means of attention to every stage in the process of delivery or production. Now, what they do is that they write standard operating procedures. QA also prepare templates. We can also add those templates into SOPs, as we can have an SOP on how to write a chemistry, manufacturing, and control document, and then to add in the annex of that SOP a template of a CMC. We also do the document management. One of the tools is to do the version controlling. So each SOP, each template, they may have a version. If an SOP is changed, the template may not be updated. No need. Or maybe now we need to update the template as well. In this case, we are now going to add a version number, and this is what QA does. So QA is making sure that we have all of the latest versions of procedures or templates as well. QA also ensures that all of the employees, they are having adequate trainings. And training is not just having a training. Even when we are having corporate trainings, we need to have a certificate of learning that QA is going to need in order to keep the files for employees up to date, so that when we have audits or inspections, we can see that employees are highly qualified and they had a formal training, and they have a documented proof of a formal training. This is why many job candidates, they go over corporate trainings or they look into again different certificate courses, allowing them to have a formal training and then a certificate of their learning that they add into their resume or into their LinkedIn profile as well, in order to show that they have been trained on a specific regulation, on project management, for example, on writing or on bioethics, on writing a study summary report, on preparation of a new drug application or an NDS, etc. So it's always helpful, and again to apply for jobs, but don't forget that even when we are working, QA is making sure that all of the employees are going to get minimum 2 or 3 different corporate level trainings within the company or outside. Even QA pays for, or HR, they pay also for employees to continue to learn. And this is what we call, and one of the pillars of GMP, which is a continuous improvement. QA also works on communicating across all functions and within functions. Now, quality assurance is built into every step of the document, data set, etc. Okay, and what they do is that they finalize the process. So here what we can see on the top is that we have a multifunctional review of documents against the source. That's what QA does. Then QA ensures compilation of all quality control comments. Then they make sure that everything, all of the changes are incorporated into the document, and then this iteration will still take place until we will reach a level where now we are confident enough that each document is ready to be submitted. And when we talk about eCTD, we are talking about 100,000 sometimes pages of documents that we prepare. Again, it depends. If you're dealing with a vaccine, for example, you may have 160,000 pages of documents, for example. And again, it includes all of the protocols, reports, summary reports, all of the tests, stability tests, specifications, etc., etc. So we are dealing with a humongous number, a great, huge number of pages and documents that we have to prepare. So a systematic approach in order to, again, stay in compliance, of course, with the standards is not necessary. It's a must. We have to have a systematic approach in order to be able to handle that much responsibility for making sure that we are really providing the quality documents so that we will be able to launch our product in the market. Now, what is quality control? Quality control is a system of maintaining standards in a product by testing a sample of the output against a specification. So here, for example, what they do in quality control, they do source data verification, or they do internal validation of documents. And again, I gave an example in the previous slides where if you are having a PDF, we have to review the entire text. If a PDF, of course, it is coming from a Microsoft Word, for example. If you're converting your Microsoft Word document to PDF, then you don't know. I mean, you should know, but you may not be sure about whether or not the font that you have been using was a standard font. So you may be losing special characters, and then it means that the document becomes completely obsolete. So we need to do the internal validation of documents. One of them is obviously to go over the entire content of document and to proofread that. It's not, again, the only I would say task that QA does, but this is one of the main tasks that we do. We check the integrity and the consistency in a document. Now, what's the job of a quality control in the context of, again, of eCTD? So here, for example, I'm going to give you, again, just a case. It's an example of 408 patients randomized. 310 patients completed the study, but the remaining, they didn't. So what happens is that they had, again, some, here we're talking about some values, for example, for the measurements that we did at different months of age, for example. And then what we can see is that we didn't find between groups any difference, significant difference at month 3 and 9. And changes from the baseline were not, again, acceptable, or they were not statistically different. So is it because the study is wrong, or is it because we have not been doing the right job by looking into doing the control of quality, or quality control of the results? So here we are talking about the integrity of a data. That if, again, the data is not accurate, in this case, obviously, we lose the investment, but mainly we are losing a chance to get a useful drug and to have it in the market. So one of the jobs of, again, QA, in the context of eCTD, would be to check or quality control the integrity of the data as well. But again, as I already mentioned, it's not just the only job that QC does. Now, talking about difference between quality control and quality assurance, what you can see here is that you have on the left side, you have, the jobs. On the left, you have the quality control. It's to identify defects. It's to, again, look into, they are product oriented, and they are looking into problem search and elimination. Now, quality assurance, what they do is they do prevention of defects. They are also process oriented, not product oriented, and they do the planning and systematic activities. Now, what you can see on the right side is that within your quality system management, the very important part of the quality system is quality assurance. And quality control is contributing into not, all, but some tasks of the quality assurance department. Now, looking into quality of your CTD submission, don't forget that quality is an iterative process. We have subject matter experts or SME that must be involved, having standard operations, following them and having them as well. And we need to have a proper training in place before, of course, authoring or writing different regulatory documents. And we also need to use an electronic document management system that will help us to do the quality control of documents. And of course, we will be able to look into these topics of the tools in another lecture. So I just want to thank you so much for your attendance today. I hope that you enjoyed today's lecture. I wish you all a very good day. Thank you so much.